Hey guys, welcome back to an all-new Cinema 4D tutorial. And as the title suggests, we're going to be continuing on with the sub-D modeling series. This is going to be episode number 22. And what you see here in the viewport is what we're going to be modeling. Now, this really isn't all that difficult to model, but I figured this would make a good exercise and good practice for us. This is something that I saw the other day, and I kind of put a little twist onto it to see how easy it would be to do it. And I figured why not just make a tutorial out of it. So what we've got here is this block shape, and on each of the four corners there is a bit of an indentation here, and then on the sides we've got these cylindrical extrusions that go in and meet in the center, and this is what we're going to be creating. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to just create a new scene file. I'm going to create a cube. And for the X and Z values, I'm just going to take those to 125. But of course, you can make this whatever size you want it to be. And I'm also going to change the Phong angle. Now, the reason why I'm going to do this is because in these newer versions of Cinema 4D, if you click on the Phong tag, by default, it's set to 40 degrees. And I'm not sure why it's set to 40, because in previous versions, it was always set to 80 degrees by default. And it's nice to have it set to 80 when you're using subdivision surface objects, because sometimes you might get some shading and Phong errors and some problems with the mesh. It won't be shaded correctly if you use a low value on the Phong angle. So I'm going to go ahead and change it back to 80. I find 80 is a good value to use when using sub-D modeling. Okay, so we want to think ahead here, and we want to think, what are we going to be doing with this cube? We know we're going to be putting some indentations on the side, and we know we're going to be putting those cylindrical extrusions in. So I want to go ahead and add those subdivision lines now so I don't have to add them later. So I'm going to add the segments for X, Y, and Z. By default, they're already set to 1, so I'm just going to take it up to 2. And that looks okay, but I'm going to need 2 more in the, not the horizontal, in the Y value. So something like that I think will be okay. So go ahead and make that editable. And because this object, if we look at this object again, this is symmetrical. So what that means is that we don't actually have to model the entire thing. That's actually going to take quite a bit of time to go through here and model this thing. All 4 sides, top and bottoms, and all the corners and everything. We can actually model just a quarter section of it, and then take that corner and put that in a symmetry object to mirror it over, and then mirror the rest over with another symmetry. That's just going to make it a whole lot easier. So in a top view, I'm just going to select that row of points there and these over here. I'm going to delete them, and I'm also going to delete the top and bottom polygons because we don't need those right now. And there is our corner section. So what I want to do is I want to select that row of points as well as this one. And I want to grab the scale tool, and I want to scale these up a little bit because this is going to determine how tall vertical wise this indentation is going to be. So if you want this indentation to be small, then you'll want to bring these closer together, but I want it to be elongated, so I'm going to bring those up like that. All right, so we want to go over into edge mode. And let's grab these 2 edges right there in the middle. I want to go to the bevel tool and be sure that you're in chamfer for the bevel mode. The offset mode is fixed distance, and the offset doesn't really matter right now. But what we want to pay close attention to is subdivision. You want to make sure this is set to 0. So just click and drag in the viewport, and just click and drag to however far you want that to go. I think that right there looks pretty good. So I want to click on the line cut tool now, which I used to call the knife tool. And I just want to make a single cut. And we want to go from the top of this triangle down to the bottom portion of the bottom triangle. And that's just going to create a cut for us down the middle like that. All right, so we want to deselect these horizontal edges. Down here at the bottom, we want to deselect those. And we want to select the center vertical edge, this one down here. Select that one and the one up at the top. And we want to go back to the bevel tool, and we want to bevel these. And the bevel tool is just going to make this quicker and easier. Rather than adding in these additional line cuts to help tighten up the corner here, rather than add those in manually, we're just going to use the bevel tool. So we'll just click and drag, and you can see it keeps everything nice and neat. Everything is in quads except for the triangles there, but don't worry about that. We're going to come back to that later and clean that up. Now if we deselect everything, notice that we've got some hard edges. You can see those hard edges there. The shading looks a little different. So just to clean that up, if you click on the Phong tag again and disable use edge breaks, and then that will take care of that issue there. Okay, so now what we want to do is grab the knife tool again, or the line cut tool. And we want to go over to a side view, and we want to click on this point here, and we want to make a vertical cut going up. So if you hold down Shift, it will lock it in 45-degree increments. We just want to go straight up and make the cut there. And we want to do one here along the bottom. And we want to go over to the other side, and we want to do that as well at the top and also at the bottom. All right. So I'm going to grab the loop cut tool, and now I just want to make a loop cut about there and on the outside about right there. So if we drop this into a subdivision surface object, it's kind of taking shape. It needs a little work, so let's go back with the loop. Let's see, the loop cut tool here, and we want to make a cut about there, and one down here at the bottom about there. And by doing that, now that edge looks a little better. All right, so it's starting to take shape. So really quick, let's go in here and take care of the triangle issue. Now, even though there is a triangle here, and you can see it, 1, 2, 3, there's a three-sided triangle there, and one there. Even though those are there, they're not really causing a problem. They're not really doing anything. It's not causing any unwanted artifacts or bulges or crimps or anything like that. So you really don't have to do anything with them. You can leave it as is, but again, it makes good practice to go in to learn how to solve triangles, to turn them into quads. So we could just grab the, why not, let's just use the polygon pin tool. We're going to go from up here and make a cut down, and then we just cut inward to there. And by doing that, we've now created 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 sides there. Now, even though these two here are in line with each other, as far as I know, Cinema 4D will use that or see it as 2 edges. I don't think it counts as one long edge. It actually counts as 2. So that is technically a quad, even though those 2 are in line with each other. And you want to do the same here on the other side. Now notice that that polygon has turned black. We'll come back to that in a minute. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Bring that one down like that. Now notice that this one on the left has turned black. This one on the right is still gray. It looks all right. So we can just grab the, let's see, where is the slide tool? And let's see if we can slide that down. There we go. And it fixes the issue. So anytime you see a polygon that has turned black, usually that means it's a degenerate poly, or it's going in the wrong direction, or something is wrong with it, and usually you can fix it by just moving one of the points around slightly. So notice that when I move this point, it fixed the issue. So most of the time, that's really all you have to do. It's just an issue of one of the points is out of place. It needs to be moved around just to correct the issue. All right, so we'll do the same down here at the bottom. All right. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to make these inner extrusions into the side. So to do that, I like to use splines as a reference. So I'm going to create a circle spline. I'm going to change the orientation. I'm going to pull it over, and I'm going to change the intermediate point to uniform and take it down to a value of 1. And then we need to go into a side view. And right now you can see that edge is overlapping that indentation, so it needs to come down more. So I think a value of, I don't know, maybe 36 will be okay. And I'm just going to change the color of this spline just so we can see it a little easier against the background. There we go. All right, so we want to make an inner extrusion on these two polys. So you want to select those two as well as these two on this side and use the extrude inner. And we want to pull those in just a little bit. So it created these two elongated faces on the outside. So you want to select those on both sides and you want to delete them. Now by deleting them, we've brought these points inward and now they are no longer in line with the plane. So we need to select that row of points there, which is just those 3 points. And we need to zero them out. And we need to do the same over here for these 3. Zero those out. All right, so back to a side view. And we want to turn on snapping. So I'm just going to enable snapping. And because we're using the spline, we want to go down and turn on spline snap. So grab the top one, snaps to the spline. We can grab the side one. It also snaps to the spline. But if we grab this corner point and we pull it down, notice that it's not really snapping. It's not locking to that corner. Now it will snap and lock to the spline, but as soon as you get to the corner, it kind of wiggles around and moves and snaps in and out, and that's not working. And the reason why is because we need to enable midpoint snap. And as soon as we do, now you can see it is snapped and locked to that corner. So we'll do the same there, and we'll do the same there. Now we need to duplicate the spline, or we could have just reused it either way. And we need to change the orientation, zero it out. I'm going to turn off snapping real quick and push that back. All right, and now we can turn snapping back on. And we'll just quickly push these points into position where they need to be. All right, so now I can turn those off, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off snapping as well. So I'm going to go into polygon mode, and I'm going to select those and push those in. And I'm going to extrude those in as well. But notice it created these two here along the Z plane and along the X plane. It created those. And also we could probably select these interfaces. We could just delete those. We don't need them. All right, so I'm just going to clean this up really quick with the points. Now we want to connect these together. So what we could do is the top and the bottom points here on this, we need to zero those out. And that will take them there to the X plane where that's at. And now we can take the polygon pin tool, and this point here at the top, we can just weld it to that one. And what did I do? And now we can weld that one to the bottom one. There we go. Okay, so you can't zero these points out, because if we were to pull those over as if they were zeroed out, including the center one, you could see it's blocking the view. You're not going to be able to see through this. So that's not going to work. So instead, what I like to do is with these 2 points here selected, we can go up here and push them as if they were in line over here with this point here. So something about right there. And now we can grab the polygon pin tool and weld that one over and weld, whoop, not the center one yet. Grab the wrong one, we want to do that one. So now we can grab that center point, we can line it up with that point there. You can see how they are in line with one another. Now we'll go back to the polygon pin tool, and now we can just weld that into place like that. Turn on the subdivision surface object just to look around to make sure that all the edges don't have any weird seams or anything like that. Make sure everything is locked into place and looks good. It does. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Now we probably need to go ahead and add in our symmetry. So symmetry goes inside of the subdivision surface. I'm going to turn that back on, and you can see those holes, they need a little help because they're a little too rounded. So I'm going to go back to the loop tool, and I'm going to change the offset mode to edge distance. And right here on the inside, we're going to put an edge loop there and one on the outside there. And the same for over here. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. All right, so it's starting to take shape. Now, if we look at the inside, you can see it's a little too rounded for my liking. Now, if you like that look, then you can stay with it. But I would rather define the inside lip to make it a little more, I don't know, I guess a little more sharp. So what I'm going to do is right here on this inside, right there, I'm going to add one, and I'm going to add another cut there. So now when we turn everything back on, now you can see that inside lip is now more defined. It's not as rounded as it was before. Okay, so now we want to go take care of the top. So let's go up here, and I'm going to grab the polygon pen tool. And notice what we've got, these edges along here, and these need to be, I guess you could say they need to be dealt with, because you don't want to just leave them hanging there. So one quick and easy way to do this is with the polygon pen tool. If we click on this point over here and then click on this one, it automatically fills in the entire top for us. If we hold down Shift and go to that back edge, you can see it's giving me the option here to make a cut and to add a point. So just anywhere along there, I'm going to add a point. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to zero it out for the X and the Z. That will take it back over here to the world origin where it needs to be at to work with symmetry. And I'm going to go back to the polygon pen tool, and these edges here, we can just tie them off like that, and it stays in quads, and we don't have to worry about taking these edges way back over here to this side to try to tie them off somewhere. All right, so if we turn everything back on, it's not really looking right. That looks more like devil horns, so that's not going to work. So we need to add in some additional cuts. So back to the loop tool, we'll go up here to the top. We'll make one there. And while we're at it, we may as well just go ahead and do one right there. All right, now we also need to make one on the top. And this is where the geometry can get a little messy. Now it is a flat surface, and if you watch one of the very first videos in this video series on sub-D modeling, you know that as long as the geometry is flat, it could be very messy and you'll never know it. But I don't like it to be messy. If I can make it clean, even though it's flat, then I'd rather have it clean. So I'm going to start over here on this side back here, and I'm going to make a cut to about right there. And I'm going to do the same from that back corner over to here. Now we have to do something with these edges because they just come to a stop, and it needs to be a continual flow around this corner. So a quick and easy way of doing this is just to take this point over here, create another one from here to that edge point there, and we just want to make a cut between those two, and just move these points into place like that. And there you go. There's your continual flow around that edge. And if we turn the subdivision surface object back on, you can see it looks nice and neat. Now we can do the same for the bottom, or if you want to save time, an easy way to do it is just delete the bottom half. And then we just add in another symmetry object, drop the symmetry into the new symmetry. And let's see, so which one do we have? There we go. So this one needs to be there. Okay, and we'll create one more symmetry. This will be for the bottom. Whoop, wrong one. There we go. All right, so there it is. There's our finished, I don't even know what you would even call this thing. I guess it's some type of block that's, I don't know, it almost looks like one of them things, you know, that you'd go play in at a playground when you were a kid, and it had the tubes, and you'd go inside and wiggle your way around to the tubes. I don't know. Anyway, whatever this is, that's how you model it. All right, so one more quick thing before I wrap this up is that I'm thinking about doing a live stream in the next day or so. I've never actually done a live stream before. But my software that I use for recording the screen, which was Camtasia Studio, I've decided to scrap it. I'm going to stop using it because it's got way too many problems and I'm tired of dealing with it. So I've moved over to OBS, and that's what I'm using right now to record this tutorial with. So I'm going to start using OBS to see how it does. And it also has the ability to do live streaming through YouTube in Twitch and things like that. So I think I might do a live stream and maybe work on a couple of old projects you guys can watch. You guys can ask questions, and maybe we could do like question and answer or something. And I'll probably do that for maybe an hour or so. So be watching for that in the next day or so. All right, guys, so that wraps it up. As always, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, any ideas for future tutorials, drop it down in the comments section below and I'll respond. All right, guys, so I will see you in the next tutorial.